And hello, everybody. Welcome back for another episode. If not now, when? Today, oh my goodness, I have such an honor. Oh my God, I'm so excited to talk to special guest today, Omar Zaki today. And you did not know, Omar and I will play email tag for past 6 months. And I'm finally getting on the show today. I'm so beyond excited because if not now, when? If not you home, right? And let me tell you a little bit more about Omar. Omar has such a unique and interesting background. He lead technology innovation all around the globe. Today, he's a venture partner at TechRanch, a venture accelerator firm with a mission to changing the world through accelerating entrepreneur success. And today, the program has impacted over 6,500 entrepreneurs over 42 countries. Oh my goodness. Omar, he is a futurist. He is extremely passionate about healthcare and had a personal mission to enable innovation ecosystem across the world. With that, everybody, it'll be such my honor to welcome Omar. And thank you so much, Omar, for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be on. It's great to be here.
Yes, and yes. So, Omar, tell us, you have such a fun and interesting journey. How does all the magic begin?
How does it all begin? Wow. I don't know. I guess I think maybe the best kind of way I think about how people become who they are to some degree is, really, a combination of circumstance and environmental kind of factors that we all get exposed to, and then our personality, right, and kind of our genetics and what we inherit from our families in terms of the way we like to do things or think about things. And I think I was an interesting, unique profile to some degree, but not. I was a first generation American Egyptian. My parents immigrated to the U.S. when in the 70s, late 70s, and again, typical immigrant story, coming to the land of opportunity to, escape more of a land of challenge and trouble in Egypt to pursue better things. My father was a doctor, a surgeon, and so I grew up in the DC, Northern Virginia area. And I think, again, being a first generation American Egyptian, I learned a lot and kind of absorbed a lot in terms of just the American lifestyle as a young child, but then mixed with the, Egyptian culture and language and Arabic and kind of, thought way of thinking and around things. And my father, even though he was a surgeon, was always very entrepreneurial. When he was in medical school, he had started his own clothing company and store in Egypt and was importing from the UK and from Europe, fine clothing items for men. And, beyond that, when I was a kid growing up, he was a doctor every day as a surgeon going to the hospital. But then he also owned a taxi cab company in Washington, D.C. And I would go with him every Saturday morning to the shop at the taxi garage and, see how he'd interact with the taxi drivers and kind of check with them what's going on. And, I kind of saw this with my father growing up over the years, how, he was a surgeon, a doctor, and a very good one, but also just very entrepreneurial and very, wanting to be involved in certain kinds of interesting business opportunities. So I think that kind of grew with me. He also, and my parents also from a young age, really wanted me to see the world and travel. So, I was taken to France and I was taken to Canada, and we were taking trips to Egypt to go visit family. And so from a young age, I got used to the idea of traveling. I got used to the idea of going outside the US and coming back. And, the US was always my home, and I was, definitely very much an American, but I had that Egyptian side of me as well. And I also had that, international side of me as well. So I think over the years, I kind of had this idea in my head that I would go into some sort of international business, or, maybe I think when I was really young, I said I would be an international lawyer or something like that. And when I went to college, that's kind of where I guess it all started to, I could figure it out. I not uncommon didn't exactly know what I wanted to do when I got to college. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, so I started taking classes towards that. I quickly, after the first year, realized that that wasn't what I was satisfied with. So I tried a few different things. I ended up in biology, of all things, and it was interesting because I think we all go through sometimes our own self discovery in our own ways, but I ended up making a decision that I was going to go into medicine, and I decided to halfway through college to focus in biology and basically prepare myself for medical school. And it was after college that I graduated in 2001, so it was the dot-com bubble basically right when I graduated college. And it was a very interesting time, coming out of college and the job market and kind of the world of internet was really starting to just become a real thing. And everybody was, all of a sudden talking all the time about all these websites and all these different interesting business models. And I ended up getting involved in consulting, which then kind of started to introduce me to other things and open doors in other areas. And so from there, I just, my entrepreneurial bug / my, very curious mind took me into, different things. And I, thankfully got to be involved in some of my own businesses. I got to be involved in other businesses. I got to travel and do businesses in other countries. And yeah, it brought me to Austin ultimately. So that's why I'm here now.
Wow, what a story, Omar. So beautiful. And when you said about, the way how I grow up, you grew up with mixed culture, with American culture and at home Egyptian culture. Also, you mentioned that your dad is such an interesting character. Himself is a surgeon, right? But in the same time, also entrepreneur. Like, is that inspire you in that young age? Do you always knew that you are involved in the business as some sort in terms of international? Like, do you always is that like do you always know that you're going to be entrepreneur one day from that angle, from that background?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I didn't know that I was going to be an entrepreneur per se, but I did know and I did feel that I was just going to do international business. And what that meant, I really didn't know,
Yeah.
until I guess now it became more apparent to me, especially after the fact when I look at my pathway over the past 20
Mm.
years of my career and kind of what I've been able to do or what I've tried to do. And I think, yeah, I knew I wanted to do international business or be in international business, but I just didn't know what that meant or what that, was it being an entrepreneur or was it being a
Mm.
lawyer or was it being a banker? I don't know. So I think that was definitely something I wanted to do and wanted to be. But again, I guess there's a saying, your eyes are sometimes bigger than your stomach, right? And so like when you go to the grocery store, especially if you're hungry, you want to buy everything, right? And I kind of have that naturally. Like I'm very curious and I'm very excited about lots of different things and new things, especially. So that reflected in kind of the decisions I made in my career. I put myself in situations where I'd get exposed to interesting things and interesting people. And, when opportunities would present themselves and I could, align the different factors or resources or, needs and requirements to go after these opportunities, I would. And that would then lead me into, other kind of interesting scenarios. I started in healthcare really. And so again, I was a healthcare consultant, but my first job out of college with this consulting company was in Abu Dhabi. And so I flew all the way to the UAE. They had a contract with a client in the UAE in Abu Dhabi. And I literally, in 2001, right out of college, my first job, my first project was, outside the United States. It wasn't really in the US. And that kind of, again, paved the way for me to, really build my, I guess, capacity and my knowledge base and my relationship base around international business. I think hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah. Why international so important for you, Omar? What about that draw you so much? Because I feel like that is in your DNA. From the business you did, travel you did, all the amazing thing you do is all around globally.
Yeah, I think being that I got to start traveling when I was young, and I, having the dual culture in my family and my background, automatically I kind of had already a diverse view of things, and I just wanted more. I really appreciated when we would go to, these trips to different places, countries, cities, etc., and the experiences that we would have. And each time it would be so unique, and the people that we meet would be so unique. So to me, that was, again, something that excited me and gave me energy, was the experiences and the uniqueness of experiences and meeting people and kind of, absorbing the benefits of meeting people
Mm.
and having these unique experiences. I
Mm.
quickly realized I can't necessarily feel satisfied, in a more, kind of routine
Mhm.
or singular environment kind of fashion. But again, I think that that's one of the things that I grew to realize over time. And you have to kind of, again, balance and figure out what makes sense and what works. But I love the world. I love, being a world citizen. Um, I just I get energy by when I go to different places and meet people and kind of get to experience the things that they experience.
I really love that, Omar. That you are really have a curious mind and you follow your heart and try different things and explore what the path look like. And I'm curious, Omar, along with the journey, whether you have new job, new experiences, new country, were you ever scared? Because it's a new country, it's a new experience, a new culture. Will you ever little bit just have that butt in your stomach? It's, oh my God, I don't know if I, can do that. Like, do you ever
All
scared?
the time, all the time. I think that's a given. If you are, putting yourself in situations that are not, comfortable or not the typical of what you've been used to, you're going to have those moments, and you're going to have those situations where you get a little bit scared, or a little bit, maybe anxious, or just kind of wary of what's going to happen and how you're going to handle the situation. But I think I learned over time that that's what helps me evolve, what helps me grow. And, having those situations teaches me about myself, and I learn from it. Even if I made a mistake, or if I, made the wrong decision, I can look back on it and I can learn from it, and I can, make the next choice better, or make the next decision better. And I think that that's how we evolve as people in general. I don't think that staying in the
Mhm.
same place and, doing everything the safe way really, proves who you can be, right? It doesn't allow you to really show and demonstrate the full potential of what a person can be.
I love that. And Omar, with that, I just have to ask. You mentioned that we all learn from our journey, from our mistakes. So, is there any like biggest mistake or biggest challenges along the year that like really just stuck out to you and that really shaped who you are today?
I think, again, sometimes when you look back in hindsight, like they say, and you kind of try to reflect on things that you did or didn't do, or decisions you make. I mean, I'm one of those people that doesn't like to believe in regret or feel like I have regret, but I do, again, try to be honest with myself and say, well, in that situation, I did think about making this decision instead, but I chose this, right? And if I had gone that other way, what would have happened, right? And you never know what would have happened to at the end of the day. So I also don't want to kind of get into a never-ending, cycle of thinking around what and regret. But again, I think it's part of my personality to push myself into areas and things that are not necessarily comfortable or known, and it gives me energy to learn and kind of come through that. I think, again, I'm a bit maybe different than some, where I jumped quickly into the entrepreneurial route after my first job. I, basically spent maybe a year and a half, 2 years in my first job as a junior consultant for a consulting company, and then was presented an opportunity to take on some sort of entrepreneurial endeavor, and I jumped on it. And through that, I learned a lot being an entrepreneur. Like they say, you learn more, how to do things as you learn by doing more as an entrepreneur than,
Mhm.
for example, by analyzing as I don't know,
Mhm.
a consultant or a scientist or something. And I definitely, the last 20 years has been a lot of that. I've learned a lot by doing and figuring it out on my own, and having to rely on myself in a lot of ways. Not having the comfort of a big company infrastructure to support me, or a big balance sheet of a bank or a firm, to support me. But again, I think that has its benefits as well. And now I'm looking at things and situations in different ways, and getting involved in new opportunities in certain ways and seeing those benefits as well. And so I think there isn't one right path, right? I don't think there's one correct way to do it, but I think that you just have to try to make the best choices for yourself as you go along in your journey, and really just reflect on what your priorities are, what you're trying to achieve in your life.
I think that says a lot about you, Omar, that having the courage, having the strength, right? Even in the first consulting opportunity, going to entrepreneurial realm, which is complete different. And then I can also tell that, from the past 20 years or so, you making one jump up to another, really just truly honest to your heart and what really you wanted it, which is just incredible. And with that, I'm curious, what is the hardest choice you made along the year? If you can think of one.
I don't know. I mean, I can't say that I feel like I've had like the one hardest. I mean, one of the hardest choices I've made was, I guess, deciding to leave my first company to go do my MBA. That was a big, decision for me because I was doing well. I was, very kind of young and successful, and I was making good money, and I had a pretty good position and profile in my mid-20s, being a owner of a business, and it was a very unique kind of business as well. But again, I hit a wall. I had some things I realized wasn't what was making me satisfied with it, and I needed to find that. And so I made the decision to leave and to go do my MBA and use that as a way to rediscover what it is I want to be involved in, what maybe some of my passions, are again, fill in blanks. Because again, like I said, I learned by doing, and I realized in that first entrepreneurial endeavor that there's a lot I didn't know, and I wanted to kind of go fill in those gaps. So I went to go do my MBA to learn more about finance and accounting and operations and HR and some of these other issues that I had to try to figure them out as a young, kid. But there is some proven methods. There are some best practices. There are some formulas that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And that's again one of those things that you learn over time, is where you can rely on things that have been already done, right, and kind of go from there. Versus no, you need to do it on your own, or you need to figure it out, and maybe you need to create something new sometimes and prove that can be done.
So tell us, more today, Omar. Today, what are you passionate about? What is next for you? What are you curious about next?
I mean, it's funny. I'm definitely still curious and passionate about a lot of things. It's probably one of my flaws, but one of my benefits. I think I'll always be interested in a lot of the new things that are going on, right? So definitely healthcare is a big thing for me. I started my career in healthcare. I started a telemedicine, telehealth company 20 years ago, and I was talking about the same and kind of perpetuating the same telehealth activities that today you see, because of the pandemic, very much accepted and now kind of almost a norm. But there's now more adoption and understanding around the technology and the capabilities and the opportunity to improve healthcare, to improve patient outcomes, to improve patient experiences. So I'm very passionate about that, and there's a lot of interesting things going on in that space, and I'm involved in some interesting opportunities and ventures, doing some very cool things, right? And I can see the future impact that they bring with them, and that's one of the things that makes me feel good, is that when I'm working on a scenario or a venture or an opportunity, that it's not just the success of the business or the success of the project. It's also the after effects that happen from there, and when it's affecting thousands of people. To me, that makes me feel good. And I think that was one of the things that made me happy with my first entrepreneurial journey. Was we were training doctors and teaching doctors across different medical disciplines, but I would walk away from each of those sessions feeling like one out of the 40 or 50 doctors is going to save an extra life, or he's going to improve a patient, his patient's experience and family situation by just that much, right? So that always made me feel good, was that, that one person also potentially would impact more people. And that's still what drives me. I mean, things today like blockchain, for example, and kind of the capabilities and opportunities that presents, and where things are going, in that direction, definitely get me very excited. Entrepreneurship in general, I think we're seeing now, an explosion in the concept of entrepreneurship. And it's a, sometimes I don't maybe want to use the term, but it's, democratization. It's becoming more accessible to people to start their own business. The idea of being a solopreneur, these things didn't previously exist, and now they do. And there's more resources, there's more organizations, there's more, talent and expertise there to support entrepreneurs. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing today, because I think that it's a great time for me to reflect on my career and what I've done in the past 20 years and try to support others right now that are thinking about maybe doing something or have already started and they want support or they need help or they need advice. And, that's what gives me energy right now, is seeing founders with great ideas working on a great concept and helping them with that in whatever way I can. And there's a lot of ways sometimes, and sometimes it's just one thing that I can do. But even that gives me, satisfaction to see that that person is chasing their vision, their passion, and I help them do that. And, maybe again, I'll do my own thing or set up my own business or start something at some point. But right now, that's what gives me the most satisfaction.
And Omar, you of course have such an experience for the past 20 years from all around the world in different ventures you're involved with. If you're looking back, think about what is your superpower? What is one thing that made Omar successful in the journey that you've been taking on? What would you say that?
I don't know. I mean, I maybe optimism. I think my ability to just try to see the good and see the positive in even, hard situations or challenging situations, and, go from there and try to come up with something from there. I think I have that, I feel maybe just tendency to always want to solve a problem. And if I see a challenge in front of me, well, how can we solve that? And especially, can we do it in a way that maybe we haven't done it before? And can we come up with something new from that? And, trying to bring the things together, the people together that can create a solution or to create, kind of the next step. So that's, I would say, something I feel like I just inherently have kind of ongoing optimism and just curiosity.
And today, Omar, you have working with so many entrepreneurs around the world, and you see ventures who are successful, maybe some are not so much. And from your perspective, what made founders successful at what they do? Is that optimism, what you just talked about? Or do you see other characteristic or quality he or she has that really you feel like, wow, that's a winning team?
Yeah, there's a lot. I think again, I've seen a lot over the years. I've seen just my own experiences, and then others. I don't think that there's one magic formula or recipe for a founder. I think that it's a combination of things. In general, I think the founder and or the founding team, they have to have determination. They have to have persistence, because it's not easy and it takes time. And they're going to, always face challenges that they're going to have to try to figure out how to navigate those challenges. So, it does take a bit of, willing perseverance and knowing that you're going to go into areas you don't understand or you don't know what to do. And that's okay. That's supposed to happen, but that you should still work through it and go through. A lot of people don't, they just give up after that, or it's just too hard for them, or they don't, realize that it was just right around the corner, but they didn't give it that extra push to get to that, next success or that opportunity. So I think that's definitely a main kind of consistent theme I see, but also just timing. Timing is a big issue. You can have a great idea and a great concept and a great model and all the money in the world to put it together, but if it's just the wrong time, it's the wrong time. And I was an example of that. I was building a telemedicine company in 2001, 2002, and it took 20 years later in a pandemic, right, to make that concept become more, of a mainstream, accepted thing. So, again, would I start a telehealth company now? Probably not, just because it's a different set of dynamics in the market. And, I'm a different person at this stage. I definitely am involved in telemedicine and telehealth, and I want to continue promoting it as a solution. But yeah, I think, it's just, there's timing, there's perseverance and persistence, there's understanding of people, trying to learn as much as you can through your own experiences. people and their behaviors and the ways the way that they think. Because ultimately, as a businessman, or a businesswoman, you're gonna try to sell something to somebody. So you really need to know who you're selling to and how to sell to them and convince them of why your product or your service is so great.
So what here is three things: perseverant, knowing the right timing, and knowing people.
Yeah.
With that, I have one just in my mind. I'm thinking this is such a interesting way to talk about this. You talk about perseverance, right? Don't give up because you might just like 1 inch away from the gold. But at the same time, you also talk about what if this is the wrong timing? What if
Yeah.
your product actually do not have the product market fit due to various scenario, right? How does the founder decide when to pivot or quit or whatever you want to call it versus, oh, you know what, I'm going to stick it out until the end. Like, how do you see that given that you work with so many entrepreneurs and maybe in a intricate point of their startup journey?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think that, again, there is no real, magic or silver bullet answer of how it's the right time, right? But I think it comes with experience and it does come with its own time, right? So the more you work at something and you really invest your time and your energy into that, concept, that industry, that function, that kind of, area, you will eventually get to a point where the timing does make sense and it'll become apparent. And I think that, there's a saying they say like, luck is only opportunity met with preparation. And I agree with that, very much to some degree. But again, luck is still luck, and sometimes people just get lucky, right? And that's a timing thing. And you can't wait for luck, but you also can't keep preparing and preparing and preparing, and then just ignore every opportunity around you, right? Or go after every opportunity and expect it to work. So you just have to kind of, again, that's where that perseverance comes in, and you just keep at it. You keep at it. Also just read a lot, listen a lot. I like to scan as much as I can of what's going on, right? And in some ways, some people look at me and like, wow, why you're just gonna overload yourself, right? And I do, but at the same time, it helps keep me aware so that when that next moment comes of something or somebody says something and I can make that connection and click, then that's when that, luck might happen, right? And that timing might be right. And I think you have to just be aware of what's going on and just kind of, in your given field or niche or industry, know who the big players are, know who the new players are, know who the successes are, who the failures are, continue to study those things and understand so you learn from the successes and the failures of people in the past. And just that gets you more and more prepared for when that timing is right. Even if it's not in your control, you'll recognize it and you'll know to take advantage of it.
So with that, Omar, I wonder what is the number one biggest misconception people have regarding entrepreneurship, or the biggest mistake you see founders made on their journey?
I think one of the big misconceptions is that, everybody with a great idea can eventually become like a Mark Zuckerberg, right? Or an Elon Musk or something. And I think that, that's not necessarily untrue. I mean, people should continue to try to come up with good ideas and prove those good ideas. But, it is also a lot of hard work, and there is also a lot of people out there coming up with ideas, right? So, a lot of times you're not the only person thinking that idea or that concept, but if you don't act on it, then you may be too late, right? Or you may not be the first one. And some people, I think, don't act. I think they think about things, they envision things, and they want to do things, or they talk about it, but they just don't take that first step. And that's always the hardest part, is just taking the first step, getting out there, making the mistakes, and then coming back and, revisiting and maybe deciding to continue or to pivot, right? And I think that's, just a misconception that, I think is less and less now, because there's more examples happening and there's more freedom and liberty and kind of availability for entrepreneurs to do things. But it's still not easy. I mean, you have your podcast, and I'm sure, it's not easy to manage that as a project or a business, and, making sure people are listening and kind of attending, and you're, scheduling with your guests. There's work in there, right? So I think that's what some people just don't necessarily think about. They think about the, fun, sexy kind of aspect of being an entrepreneur, but they don't realize that there's still day-to-day stuff that has to happen. There's a lot of things that maybe you don't want to do that you just have to do for you to get to that next stage.
I would have to agree. I think oftentimes people think in a startup it's like a rainbow and sunshine, and next moment I am Facebook, I'm Mark Zuckerberg, but there's a lot of definitely grit and grind to go along with that. So I definitely agree with you.
Yeah.
And Omar, I wonder, what is one thing that you wish 20 years ago? What would you say to yourself, younger version of yourself?
That you're going to fail a lot and it's okay. I think when I was younger, I never had the idea in my head that I would fail and that, I would make mistakes or, maybe I would make mistakes, but that, I'll be successful and I'll do it and I'll do it the way I want to do it. And I think, we all, as we get older and get through life and experiences and deal with things, you realize, things aren't so easy all the time or things aren't so rosy or as you expect it. And the failures, even though at the time felt really bad and, were not easy and kind of, took a lot out of me, looking back, they taught me a lot and they made me who I am today, and they will continue to make me who I'll be in the future. And I think that you learn more from your failures than you do from your successes. And I think if people are okay with failing, they will be more likely to succeed and do better things in their success than if they just got lucky and became successful, because then that actually, is a very risky, dangerous situation where you just don't value and you don't appreciate the time and the energy and the work and the resources to get to a success, right? So, I would say just tell myself it's okay to fail and you're going to fail and, you'll look back and you'll be able to do more again later.
I think oftentimes when I see entrepreneurs, when especially they are so success driven, they are so wanted to make that incredible vision come true. They also extremely feared of failure too, because it doesn't sound fancy and rosy. But I really love what you said. Without failure, there's no success, and this is just a stepping stone get to the next stage. And I really love that. Omar, I'm curious today, what made you happy? What is next for you?
Yeah. So as I was saying, today what really, makes me happy or what satisfies me is my ability to work with, entrepreneurs and founders and support them on their journeys, recognize things that they're going through that I went through. And, it still may be different even now, what they're going through compared to what I went through. But being able to think through those things with them, being able to, be there and kind of be a sounding board or provide insight or, even if it's just asking the right questions and having them think through things a little bit more and a little bit deeper so that they make better, more informed decisions, as they go. That definitely makes me happy. The ability for me to be also exposed to so many business ideas, right? And businesses. This is just the best time to be in entrepreneurship and or to, be involved in the world of entrepreneurship because you're just exposed to so many cool ideas and people and things that are happening. And, as the world is accelerating and growing and, lots of interesting things are happening all over the world that we're just still kind of scratching the surface on some of it. And so I get very excited by that. And I get, satisfied by being a part of some of these things, even if it's, at the ground level when it doesn't even really look like anything yet. But it's like, we're thinking about these things and envisioning these things for the future and, trying to see if we can get to that state. That makes me happy now.
If one day we are long past from this planet, what do you wish people remember you by, Omar? Or what impact you want to leave on this planet?
I guess I would like to be remembered as somebody who, was honest and was, genuine in my attempts to do good things in business and in the world, right? And yes, making money is a great thing, and I very much a capitalist or proponent of capitalism, but I'm also a proponent of positivity in society and positive impact in society, and so where business can help with that is something that drives me and makes me kind of feel with purpose. My graduate school had a famous saying, and I may mess it up, but it was, something to the effect of, borders frequented by trade are less frequented by soldiers. And it's, to me, a very true fact that I've seen just in my career where, people, organizations, countries, whatever you want to call it, when they work with each other and there's some sort of business, kind of trade element to it, and there's a mutual benefit, they're never going to fight with each other or think about fighting with each other in that kind of war type fighting, right? I mean, there can be disagreements and there will always be disagreements between us, but we can work through those disagreements, especially when there's an incentive between us. But if there's no incentive between us and it's just, a defensive kind of nature, that's what causes problems. And that's what I've seen, a lot in the world, as, again, just an unfortunate reality that we have to deal with, but that we can help impact and influence by being more, proactive and doing good things in the world, in business, in technology that can do good for others and not just be about how big my bank account is, right? Or how many startups I started and sold or how much money I raised, right? Like these are, again, they're nice, but they're not the main, reason that we should be doing what we're doing.
Wow, that's really profound. Like, I love you said doing business really help us connecting one another, and we do that in a deeper and meaningful way. Of course, there's no misunderstanding, there's no war need to happen with that. So I can see business, global level when we can done it right, really connecting, uniting all of us, and we are global citizens.
That's true.
And my last question to you, Omar, and I want to circle back to the beginning, right? You mentioned you are a second generation, right? Your parents are Egyptian. So for you, what's your take on American dream, and what does that mean for you personally?
It's America is still America. It is still, to me, the most fruitful land and kind of place where there's opportunity and true opportunity to do it and prove that you can do it, from the ground up. You could be, you could have nothing in your pocket and still make it in this country, right? I've been to a lot of places around the world, and I know that that's not true in a lot of places, and it's very much, almost impossible to do a lot of things in other, countries, unless you're born in the right family or born in the right situation or at the right time, or and I think that's, again, my American dream is to continue, proving that, that I can bring ideas and prosperity to others, and that, America is a place that, ideas and ideas and opportunities and good stuff can happen as long as you are willing to put the time into it, right? And it's not easy, and it's not going to just be given to you, but you really learn who you are by doing stuff the American way, and then working with others and becoming more than just American. I think that just, also sticking with a very only American frame of thinking is not a good thing either. And I think that it helps, when you're exposed to others, to kind of mold and modify and optimize really what you can actually offer to a market or a person.
Thank you so much, Omar. I'm really so enjoy this conversation. I love that you can brought the insight from your own experience, but also global view because your own personal experience, and really show us, your journey and the experience and lesson you learned along the way. So thank you so much for inspiring. I really enjoyed today's conversation, and I hope everybody who tuned in today also enjoyed it. And I cannot wait to see you guys next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a magical week, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for having me. Bye.